Hey guys, welcome adventurers, it's Cressup here, and today I've got a fantastic chat I had with Charles Cecil from Revolution Software, obviously the creator of Broken Sword. We had a chat in the evening at BAFTA HQ in London, out on the terrace. It was a lovely night. It was a little bit dark, so sorry about the lighting. I've tried to amp up the lighting just a little bit, but what was more important was what Charles had to say. And that's that Broken Sword 2 is getting a reimagining, much like they did the original Broken Sword, Reforged. Broken Sword 2 is also getting a reforged treatment. And he talks a little bit about that, the development of that, the process that they're doing, a little bit different from the original, whether there's going to be a Kickstarter. He also speaks a little bit about the fate, if you will, of Parzival Stone, which is the sixth Broken Sword, which he spoke to me about a couple of years ago now, that they're making a new Broken Sword called Parzival Stone. We speak about where that is as well. So we get details on that and this Reforged classic. It was lovely as always to chat to Charles. He's such an amazing guy, so intelligent, articulate, unlike me. So it was fabulous to catch up with him. So thank you so much, Charles. I really, really appreciate being able to hang out with you and have a chat with you. I'm really looking forward to BS2 Reforged, which you should be able to play a demo of, hopefully at AdventureX, which is coming up in November, which is a narrative gaming expo happening in London, 22nd and 23rd of November. At time of talking, there are still some tickets available for that. So if you want to come, I'll be there. There'll be lots of great adventure games on display as well. Charles is doing a talk, which we talk about. So do check it out. I'll put the details for that and Broken Sword 2 Reforged all in the links below. And also the fact I'll put my link to my Twitch as well, because I do stream on Twitch. Lots of adventure games. Do want to do the original Broken Sword reforged version on my Twitch at some point. So do check me out. I'm just twitch.tv/Cressup. Right, so I'm here at BAFTA with the fantastic Charles Cecil. Hello, Charles. This is a fantastic place to meet you.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much. I mean, it's great, isn't it? It really is great. And aren't we lucky that BAFTA has embraced video games as equal partners with film and television? And I was talking to one of the former chairs, and I said how excited we were. And he looked me in the eye and he said, I think we need you more than you need us.
Oh,
which was a really, really telling thing to say, wasn't it?
Yes, but I do know what he means. I definitely know what he means. Well, we're here to talk about a couple of things, but mainly the exciting news about Broken Sword 2 Reforged, which I think we had an inkling was happening, but tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, Broken Sword 1 Reforged went down really, really well. We got great reviews, got fantastic feedback from our community. So it was something that we decided to do fairly early on. But we are currently fulfilling our Kickstarter. So we didn't really want to talk about it before. But now that we've started to do that, finally we're able to talk about it. And I mean, the extraordinary thing is that Broken Sword 1 had 30,000 frames of animation.
Yeah.
Broken Sword 2 has 45,000. Okay. So it is a massive, massive undertaking. And the other thing is that, you know, I got into a bit of trouble talking about AI last time, but AI didn't really help us very much at all. And we've gone into Broken Sword 2 just saying we're just going to do it using artists and, animators and we're not even going to really consider AI because it didn't help us last time, and we'll get a better product and I think it'll be better received. So no, we're very excited.
I mean, I do understand I do understand, you know, why you did go through that process though, because as you said, it was a lot of sprites, a lot of updating. What was it that made you think, okay, as much as that might help us a little bit, we're going to move on from this? What made you turn away?
Primarily because I think it's naive to think that an AI can take hand-drawn art in that particular style.
Sure.
And put in detail where no detail existed, or indeed for an animation to upscale the animation and put in human emotions. I mean, it's something that humans need to do because that's what humans do. I mean, clearly AI is extraordinary in so many ways, but it does just do what went before by definition, and I think that's something that we can all take comfort in many ways, because creativity will always transcend what went, just copying what went before. So yeah, no, it was really exciting. I mean, really, the response to Broken Sword 1 was absolutely phenomenal. We got on PlayStation 5, we have a Metacritic of 89%, which is, I mean, crazy. And isn't that wonderful for a game that, you know, a point-and-click adventure from 30 years ago that we've brought back? But we have such a strong team, and everybody's so passionate. And one of the things that we really wanted to do was make the game appeal to a modern audience. And so we worked really hard. We analysed why people were getting frustrated, and we went into real depth, just looking at exactly what the problems were, what was snagging people, and just went round and round and round, because ultimately I think the way that people want to play games and adventure games now is quite different to how people played. I remember a journalist 30 years ago saying, "Oh, I love adventure games. I get really stuck, and then I go to bed, and in the morning I wake up, and I think,
done this.
I'm going to try this, and then it works or it doesn't work." And that's not the way people want to play games anymore.
I guess not.
So what we've, I mean, what we're lucky on is that we bring forward, I hope, generally good puzzles. I mean, yes, there are some weak puzzles, but generally strong puzzles that make sense within the context of the world and the characters. And we offered two options. We offered a traditional mode, which is the way that people used to play, and then a story mode. And in the story mode, we just give very subtle hints, because the idea is that people, you know, the wonderful thing about playing an adventure is you feel smart. You're driving the narrative forward through your own clever deductions. And the problem, whoa.
You could wait. This. You can tell it's live.
Yeah. And so what I was really determined to do was to adjust the interface so it felt really contemporary, and that people, you know, that wonderful feeling when you start playing a game, an adventure, and you start feeling smart because you're driving forward the narrative, that actually when people got stuck, we would kind of help them without patronizing them.
Sure.
And one of the things that we did, and certainly I felt this, is, you know, you're going to get a little bit stuck, and you go and you click on the same thing again, and you get exactly the same reply. And it's like, it breaks the suspension of disbelief. It's frustrating. So what we decided to do, one of the things was just simply, in the story mode, just take away hotspots that weren't directly relevant, so that as you play through the game, you're rewarded. You're rewarded because the options start being honed down, and it's you that solved it. You know, we haven't given you the solution. When we did Broken Sword Director's Cut, you know, we put in a hint system, and we thought, oh, that's great, you know, everybody. But the moment you go and look for a hint, you've failed. You're no longer smart. So you know, we put all that work in, and the response has been so phenomenal that we've really doubled down on that for Broken Sword 2, and we're putting in a lot of new ideas, which we will then port back to Broken Sword 1, because one of the proudest moments I had when we were promoting Broken Sword 1 is that I was interviewed for the PlayStation 30th anniversary, and they said, you know, what were you doing 30 years ago? And I said, we'd just launched Broken Sword on PlayStation. Which is quite a thing to be able to say. And they said, and what will you be doing in 30 years? And I said, I can think of nothing prouder than people still playing Broken Sword in 30 years' time. Because, you know, what we have is we have wonderful people who turn up, you know, come and pay pilgrimages to York and come to see our offices and photograph themselves under the sign. But what I love is that you've now got 3 generations. So people, you know, they're playing with their kids, and they played with their parents. And that's an extraordinary privilege.
Yes, no, certainly. And I've been to York. I've been to that sign there, the Revolution sign. It is lovely. I remember walking past and be like, oh my gosh, there's Revolution. People get very excited about seeing that sign. You've mentioned, of course, the art's being updated as people would expect. What other aspects, and of course the puzzles, it's going to have this story mode, this and the traditional mode. Are there any sort of things that people might not expect for 2, that maybe different kind of updates that we've not seen from 1 or before?
Well, like 1, we are scouring for speech files that were recorded but never played.
Yes.
And we put quite a few of them into 1, and we'll be doing the same for 2. I think the key thing is that The cutscenes in particular have all been redrawn from scratch.
Okay.
So no AI use at all.
Yeah.
And they look fantastic. And if you'd be kind enough to put a link in, then people
Yes,
can
of course,
see.
yes. Yeah,
Then
yeah.
people can see, the way that it works. But it really does look like sort of Disney quality cartoon. I mean, it looks
Amazing.
absolutely beautiful.
Now we are talking about this a little before this will go out, so I don't obviously know the full details. Is there going to be a kind of Kickstarter element to this as well, or is this just going to go through, because it went so well the first time, and I think my box should be coming at some point, which I'm very excited about getting as well.
Yeah, the thing about the Kickstarter was that we really went for broke, and there's a figurine in there, and figurines are notoriously difficult, and some people quite rightly are very frustrated that the game this version is so much later, but it is all down to the figurine.
Right.
So
no figurines this
well,
time.
well, but this is the question. So what we want to do is just. We would love to do a Kickstarter, so we will set a page for coming soon and just see what happens. And the key question that, and I'm afraid I have to put it back to people, is: do you want a figurine of Nico? If you do, it will take time, and there's just nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
So thank you for your patience, and thank you to everybody who has patience. Everybody says, "Oh, everything's late in Kickstarter." Well, that's not really good enough. We expected to deliver it before then. The box does look absolutely beautiful, and everything with it. So, I hope people will be really pleased. But there has been a degree, quite understandably, of frustration up till now.
I have to say, though, that wasn't me being frustrated. There was more. What was the funniest thing is, because I don't have a great memory, so I genuinely thought, has it been delivered and I've not picked it up, and I was really worried that I'd missed it. But I understand. I mean, as you say, I didn't actually know it'd be because of the figurine. I thought it was maybe the box that would take a long time, but that's good to know. So there you go, guys. It's up to you, really. You got to have your say on this, if that's what you want or not. I mean, let's talk a bit about the community, because as you said, fantastic response for Reforged 1. Did that kind of drive, were you always thinking of doing 2 as well, or did it just come from that response and you thought, well, we've got to do 2 as well?
Well, the thing about adventure games is that they are a niche.
Yes.
And they're expensive to write.
Yeah.
So we have to be super cautious, and we both value but also rely on the relationship with our community, because without that, we simply wouldn't be writing games anymore. It's just as simple as that. So it's and certainly in Kickstarter you've got role-playing games, which tabletop role-playing games, which do really, really well. And that's the same sort of thing. You have a niche, very passionate audience, and so yes, the community and the relationship with community is so important. It's what allows us to continue to write games. And it's great, and it's always such a privilege meeting people, and it's a lovely industry, isn't it? And
Yeah, it really
and
is.
people, you hear these horror stories from other communities, but adventure people are just lovely.
They are really nice, yeah.
And they like each other, and they like us, and we like them. So if only the world was that
I know. Yeah.
was that happy.
So I guess, yeah, was it that the sort of popularity or the interest that made you think, let's do 2 as well, and you had that backing and you knew?
Well, only when the game was successful.
Yeah.
Only when the game was successful, because if it hadn't been successful, if we hadn't had good sales, if we hadn't had the Kickstarter success, then we wouldn't have done 2.
Sure, that makes sense.
But the thing about 2 was that it was written in a year. Our publisher, Virgin, basically said, even though Broken Sword 1 had been really successful, they decided that adventures were dead and that the PC was dead as a games format. And I remember being told this by Martin Alper, who actually ran Virgin, and he went on to tell me that the reason that he made such good decisions was because he'd never played a video game in his life before. Okay. And that was that was fairly typical of the people running the industry back in the 90s. And so we were told by Martin that we had to finish it in a year, otherwise the game would be cancelled.
Gosh, okay.
And we had spent 4 months building up to it, and we did have a lot of the team and the production methodology. And we finished it in a year. But there are, and the game, a lot of people prefer Broken Sword 2 to Broken Sword 1. It's got, I think it stands up very well against it, if not, every bit as well against it. But, for example, there are some, very few sound effects. So we're going through, what we want to do is we want to stay absolutely true to the original.
Yes.
So, but adding sound effects.
So there's not going to be new scenes or anything like that?
No. But adding sound effects, there's a scene for people who know the game where you go into a museum, a pirate museum, and in truth, it's fairly unlikely that you will trigger a piece of dialogue that talks about a rich man going through the eye of a needle. Now, but if you don't, then the next section makes no sense whatsoever. So, isn't it brilliant to be able to go back and say, well, actually, we're going to change the logic, not substantially, but we're going to change the logic such that the player has to get that bit of information. Because these are all things that we just couldn't do because of the time constraints when we wrote the game originally.
Let's talk a little bit as well. Well, I should ask, actually, and you might not have an answer for this, but any idea when this might go out? I hate asking this question. I know developers hate it, but I have to ask it because people want to know.
Yeah, you're talking about Broken Sword, Parzival Stone.
Yeah. Well, and also, actually, first of all, 2 Reforged. Any idea when roughly we're going to be seeing that?
Yeah, early 2026.
Right. Yeah.
Early 2026.
Yes.
But if the Kickstarter goes ahead, if it gets support,
I'm sure
then it will depend on the figurine and whether, because when we did Broken Sword 5, it had lots of cool things. It had posters and CDs and a disc of but everything was easy to produce.
Yeah.
It really was.
Just that
And everything we've done is actually been hard to produce with a custom box and everything. But as far as Broken Sword 6, Parzival Stone, it was being supported by one of the publishers, who then the whole industry just went to hell in a basket, and they pulled back. So we're still very excited by the game, but we're working on it, but very, very much part-time. So I wouldn't like to even hazard a guess when it's going to be finished. So I'm really sorry. And the wonderful thing is that people keep asking and people care, which is great.
And I suppose maybe the hope is these games, the Reforged, will possibly help that as well. I don't know. We'll continue that, which is great. I mean, let's talk a little bit about, obviously it has been very difficult in general for the industry. How has it been for Revolution? How have you been doing?
Well, the amount of money flooding into the industry during COVID was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, from venture capitalists and corporate finance people and indeed the first parties. And we kind of just kept our head down and, as I said, worked with our community on games, because to companies like this, point-and-click adventures aren't necessarily that sexy. So, to be quite honest with you, we're relatively unaffected, because we didn't make huge amounts of money, or we didn't take in investments at the time, and so we're not paying the price now.
And in terms of, I mean, I guess people will wonder, do you think you'll continue down this sort of Reforged route? Is the hope that you might get a whole collection of Reforged? And I suppose a question as well, do you think, I kind of know your answer because you've sort of said about this new generation of people playing, do you think they need to be remastered? I think they genuinely do stand up, but I do understand this idea of getting new people into the fold and modernising it a little bit.
Yeah, we, as you'll know, Laurie, you can play the game. You can press a key and go between the old and the new.
Which is great that you could do that.
The thing about the new is that you see so much facial expression. You see so much more character in the animation because of the resolution. When back in 1996, the screen resolution was 640/480, so you draw your icons like that. Now it's 36 times the resolution, so you can make the game, you can communicate in a completely different way because of the way that you can add sparkles, because of the way you can make the thing sort of pulse. the nostalgia is a really, really important part.
Yeah.
And that's great. But to a new audience, I think you kind of have to. And I'm delighted that we have. But, you know, what we certainly are attracting new players, which is wonderful. And the other thing is we have a very diverse audience. And, you know, I wish I could say, well, we put a strong female protagonist in all those years ago because we wanted, you know, a big female audience. But it wasn't done for that reason.
No.
It was done because it just made the story better, you know.
Yeah. And they worked well together.
And they worked well together, indeed. And there's a sort of relationship between the two of them. And, you know, certainly when we started Revolution in the 90s, throughout the 80s, the way that women were depicted in video games was it was dreadful, you know, absolutely dreadful. So, you know, when we, you know, all of our games, we decided that really we were going to write interesting, strong female characters because, as I say, it would make a better story, not for any other reason. Can I tell you my favourite story about Lure of the Temptress?
Yes.
You've probably heard it.
I might have done.
Yeah, you probably have. So Lure of the Temptress, obviously quite a sexualised title.
Yes, that's true.
Particularly when we were talking about the fact that we wanted to have strong female protagonists and not patronise women. So the story about this, which I've told many times, but forgive me for repeating myself, is that we were working with a company called Mirrorsoft, and the game had got some crappy name. I can't remember. It might be Vengeance or something. It was just a working title. And the head of PR, head of marketing, a woman called Alison Beasley, phoned me up and said, "We need a name for this game. Can you give us a whole lot of names?" So I've still got the facts, and I put down a whole lot of names. And at the bottom, I put Lure of the Temptress. In brackets, we can't call it this. So,
why did you put it then?
Well, exactly. Don't ever tell a marketing person anything that you don't want them to grasp and run with, because of course grasp and run with is exactly what she did.
Fantastic.
And she phoned me back and she said, "Look, we love Lure of the Temptress as a title." And I said, "Alison, there are two problems."
Yes.
And she said, "What are the problems?" And I said, "Well, one, we've got no luring, and two, we don't have a temptress." So there was a silence, and Alison said, "Can you put one in?" I promise you. I swear to God.
Amazing.
So, now the thing was that what she said, in truth, was the game feels a bit small anyway. So what we'll do is we'll pay you a bit more money, make the game a bit bigger, put a luring and a... So we had to completely... Now, I don't think anybody ever noticed, but, you know, what happens at the beginning has got really nothing to do with what happened at the end.
That's true, actually. That's funny. I love that, though. I guess there isn't a similar story. You did sort of tell me, I remember, a little bit of the backstory of Parzival Stone, and there is a bit more of a reason behind that name, isn't there? It kind of does make sense with the whole rest of the quest. It isn't just being put in there.
Yes, no, indeed. Well, the Albigensian Crusade, of course, which was millions of people killed in the medievals, and involves the Grail, but it doesn't involve the Grail in a sort of cheesy way.
No, yeah.
That's the big thing. You know, I think that Monty Python pretty much killed off any sense that you can take the Grail seriously as a Grail. Although, having said that, Excalibur, which came afterwards, was absolutely brilliant. But I think you need a new take on the Grail and the idea of, you know, the idea that Monty Python lampoons so brilliantly. It has to be different, and this is different. This is really bleeding stones. This is stuff that I think is fascinating, and millions of people killed.
Yeah, and let's quickly talk about AdventureX, because you're going to be there. You're going to be giving a talk, which is fantastic. What are you going to be talking about there?
Well, we're also showing the game.
Yes. Oh, we should mention that. Yes.
Yeah, which is really exciting. We're really looking forward to it. So that's going to be the first time that anybody gets to see it. And we will be watching people like a hawk, particularly people who, well, it's an incredibly useful exercise because these are people who clearly like narrative games.
Yes.
And if they stumble and if they can't see where to go forward, then we need to understand why and we need to fix it. And as far as talking, I'm going to be really talking about our journey and the balance, as we were saying earlier, between nostalgia and appealing to a new audience. Because what excites me is that a Gen Z or Gen Z audience really care about video games as an art form and narrative. and we find that there's actually a really interesting new cohort of young people from that generation who are loving our games, but they're looking at it from a much more subtle perspective and a much more respectful perspective than has happened for quite some time.
Fantastic. Well, I will be there as well. No doubt we'll chat again. I'll get you on here again, I'm sure. But really looking forward to testing it out there, and looking forward to game and all you've got coming. I really appreciate you having a chat with me.
Thank you so much, Laura.